In order to fight HIV and AIDS, in order to fight sexual abuse and sex exploitation, the United Nations is pushing for the decriminalization of prostitution. The trade has always been surrounded by stigma, preventing sex workers from seeking crucial medical services or legal services when they are abused by police or clients. But as Kathryn Omwandho reports, Kenya's conservative nature has complicated the debate on decriminalization of prostitution.
When most Kenyans arrive home and sit down for dinner, Liz is getting ready for work. Her job is highly dependent on her looks.
These people who are saying no, sex work is illegal, sex work is just what, they are our official clients.
If you were given an option to do anything else or to work as anyone else, would you change your job?
I won't. Maybe when I become old, that I'm not able to work out. But as much on the other side, I might prefer to have a secondary income. But my primary is sex working.
She feels it's time commercial sex work is decriminalized.
We are human beings. We are their sisters. This is where we earn our living.
In late 2012, the United Nations Development Programme proposed the decriminalization of prostitution.
The notion behind decriminalization is to actually ensure that as we are developing and implementing programs, and especially HIV prevention programs towards sex workers, it ensures that it takes a rights-based approach.
When I was new in the industry of sex working, I met with this city council who really, in the side of tea room, I was calling the client there to sleep, but he just pushed me. And then he took me to a street where we had sex without a condom.
When one arm of the government, the Ministry of Health, provides condoms for sex work to combat HIV or to combat infectious diseases, as they are called, STIs and the sort, another arm of the government, which is the law enforcement, comes and takes away this particular items, condoms, from sex workers, then it's counterproductive to whatever public health approach.
The Penal Code Article 154 says any woman who knowingly lives on the earnings of prostitution or is proved to have exercised control, direction or influence over the movements of a prostitute in such a manner as to show that she is aiding her prostitution with any person is guilty of a felony. There is no clause, however, in the Constitution that explicitly outlaws commercial sex work. However, under the Bill of Rights, every Kenyan has a right to access to health care and has a right to be protected against any kind of abuse.
And actually, when sex workers are arrested, they're not arrested under that specific clause. Most of them will be arrested under the city bylaws and charged with loitering with intent to commit prostitution.
I have a case study of myself. I was arrested. It was 5 a.m. in the morning. I was on my way to home. Because in the morning, how can you define one is a sex worker? The street is busy. I was wearing well with my trouser. I was not naked. I was not wearing a short sleeve skirt. I was not wearing an open top. I was just walking home. And then they arrested me. And so I was taken to court. When the city askari was writing down our names, and they have to write before they hand it over to judge. So I saw him writing down, he has arrested at 1 a.m. Then the charges were read. Flani, charged with loitering with the intention of prostitution. Guilty or not guilty? Not guilty. We stood strong, and they were shocked when we won the case.
The charge for loitering with the intention of prostitution will fetch a fine of 1,000 shillings if the woman pleads guilty.
And we have told them, do not plead guilty, do not bribe your way out, do not, let them prove. Let us go to the court and let them prove that you are loitering. And we have had 100% success, and they have not been able to prove any of the cases. And now we are going to sue them for unlawful arrest.
In a decriminalization setting, which is what we are calling for, both parties will be protected.
In legalization, we are talking about officially acknowledging existence of sex workers and making them pay tax and making them have a record or some sort, which to us will be very problematic.
In February 2012, the then city mayor George Aladwa found himself in a bind when he was first reported to have said that he would legalize sex work, only to recant his statement hours later following sharp criticism from members of the public.
We should find a long-term solution.
KTN sought the views of top county official Christopher Hayemba, but he refused to comment on the matter, saying that the city council will give a comprehensive statement in a week's time. So what we did instead was go out to the streets and ask Kenyans what they feel about decriminalization of prostitution.
We just like living in pretense that it doesn't exist while it does exist. If that law is removed, yeah, then they introduce taxes for that particular business. We are going to generate a lot of income out of that.
As a Christian, I don't think prostitution should be legal.
If you want money and you are getting customers, that means there is a situation of a willing seller and willing buyer. So it should not be removed. The only thing that should be there is that because it is a trade, the prostitute should be paying tax.
If you hear a letter M, a man, men, they are working everywhere. Priest, whoever. We have so many of them. From the government, from churches. Some could come and remove their petals, put it on the table. They could give you a phone to receive.
Let us remove the speck in our own eyes before we remove the speck in someone else's, and not claim that sex work is an immoral thing. There is transactional sex which exists in very many different levels. We know very well that people exchange sexual favors and gifts for other sexual favors and gifts, and it exists in very many different levels, but people still do not want to talk about it. That in essence is sex work. What sex workers are coming out to say is that if that is existing, then why are we treated as criminals?
We should standardize these bylaws, and the ones that are not in line with the Constitution really have to go.
Stakeholders are planning to sit down with government officials and discuss possible policies on the matter. But just as was seen during the constitutional referendum campaigns, matters touching on morality have often proved to be hot potatoes in Kenya, and few politicians ever want to be involved. Kathryn Omwandho, KTN.